We're going to be talking about communication and etiquette. Let's make this as interactive as possible. This is not something that you want to be theoretic about. I want us to be very, very practical about this. And the first question we want to ask ourselves is, what is communication? When I say communication, what do you hear? No dictionary definition, just being the first thing that comes to your mind.
When I hear communication, I hear about two people conversing. One is listening, and the other is actively speaking. I also hear probably medium. It might be radio, it might be TV, it might be like any form of medium. Then when I also hear about communication, I hear like feedback. Yes.
When I hear about communication, is ability to pass through your message, whether an idea, whatever it is, just to be able to pass through your message.
All right, beautiful. I like what these ladies are saying. Am I communicating anything right now? Yes. So there doesn't have to be speech for communication to happen. Would you agree? Yes. There doesn't have to be sound for communication to be happening, okay? When I say etiquette, what do you hear? When I say etiquette, what do you hear?
Etiquette is how you present yourself, how you carry yourself, the way you look, how you talk, and everything that comes across it.
All right. Anyone else with a view on what etiquette is?
I think etiquette is goes further to say that it's a set of a certain standard of manner that is acceptable to a specific community of people. For example, if you eat maybe with your hands in some communities, it might offend other people. But in our African communities, it is still you are still within etiquette if you're eating with your hands. So I feel like it's important for us to note that etiquette is different according to the communities.
Very nice, very broad perspective, very broad perspective. Now, what I'm trying to do with you guys this morning is a whole training program. And so I'm going to be compacting it. I'll be moving very quickly. Feel free to stop me whenever you need to. Feel free to interact and ask questions even as we go along, because I'm trying to move very quickly. I'm trying to compress all of it. You agree with me? Now, I'm going to give a few insights on the area of communication, and then I will break to etiquette, and I'm going to consider etiquette in 3 different sessions. We're going to talk about communication etiquette, we're going to talk about dress etiquette, and we're going to talk about dining etiquette, all right? And all of those are training programs. So I have to compact all of that into a brief session, so that's why I need to move with a bit of speed, all right? So we've talked about this already. We've talked about whenever you're not saying anything, you're still saying something, all right? You're never not communicating. Now, for you guys who are leaders, it's even more important. Do you agree with me? Because when you comment on a subject, it's as important as when you don't comment. Who is present when you comment is important, all right? So you are never not communicating. People are looking at you for direction. People are looking at you to make decisions. Do you know there's people who will begin to dress the way you dress? There's people who will not attend an event because you are not attending. So when you're a role model, you have to take your communication very, very seriously. You have to know that you are never not communicating, all right? Now, is communication easy? Is communication easy? Let me get an input on that. Is communication easy or not?
I don't think communication is easy. Communication is something you build with time. For example, I interact with people who it's very difficult to talk to them and to get feedback from them. But also, sometimes we also have the weakness where someone is talking, but you're constantly interjecting. You do not give them a chance to speak. But it's also understanding your audience and ensuring that you understand what it is they want to hear from you. So it's something you build over time.
Okay. Start with yes or no of whether communication is easy.
No, it's not easy because at times it depends with the target that you're handling. Like there's a certain target that even if you go there and present yourself, because of the age difference, it might not be very easy to communicate to them. At the same time, as leaders, at times when you want to give some information, the guys you're communicating using there's a certain medium of communication you could be using that is not resonating well with the target that you are presenting, so you can end up not communicating the message as it were.
Okay, so communication is not considered the easiest thing, but it's very, very important. Would you agree? I'll come to you next.
I don't think communication is easy, especially when you want to articulate your vision, because at any given time, you're either articulating your idea, you're either articulating your vision to ensure that the people you want to impact understand where you want to go. And I feel like at times that is where the disconnect is in terms of how the recipient receives the information, whether it's inspiring, whether it's convincing, and even the ability for them to see through you and be like, maybe, maybe not, or even just you not being able to motivate them to actually join you on the path that you want them to join you on.
I think that communication is not easy, but it can be easy, especially if the person communicating and the person being communicated to choose to apply good communication skills like listening, being vocal, and having the correct body language.
All right. Don't worry, guys. I'll come to you. I'll have everyone participate. Now, we are all in agreement that communication may not be the easiest thing, but do we agree that communication is very important? Yes. I usually do personal development programs, and I tell people that the biggest favor you can do to your career, the best thing that you can do to if you could do just one thing to improve, to propel yourself forward, is to improve your communication. If you can, have you ever had someone speak for 20 minutes and you're not sure what they've said? Or you read an article. Has anyone ever written you an email and you read the first paragraph and you're like, what am I reading? You go back and read it again and you're thinking, what is this person talking about? The words are there, but you can't understand what they're saying, all right? So those are some of the things we want to be talking about very, very briefly. How is it you can communicate? And then in etiquette, we talked about this already. These are other ways to say etiquette. You can either say good manners, decorum, good behavior, respectability, correctness, decency. I like to call these the soft skills that make you welcome. The soft skills that make you welcome. My company is actually called Soft Skills Limited because I know how important it is. Now, your hard skills, if you're a carpenter, your ability to build something. If you're a doctor, your ability to diagnose, those are your hard skills. Those will get your foot in the door. Your university degree will get your foot in the door. But what keeps you in a position, what raises you in the career, in whatever it is that you're doing, is your soft skills. Is how you interact with people, is how you make yourself likable, is how you blend in, because you have to be liked by people, you have to, and now all of these things, and somebody mentioned correctly that etiquette is culture sensitive. We are going to be talking about that in a few minutes. I just want to spend the first few minutes on communication. So that's what we are going to be talking about when we go to etiquette. Now, you guys are being groomed to be leaders. You're leaders already. And the most important part of leadership. Now, leadership in my language is getting results through others. You know where we are trying to go, but you want to get there using the effort and the knowledge of others. So how do you get people to rally around you to go in the direction that you want to take them? It's your communication. It's your communication. Communication is not what I'm saying. Communication is what you're hearing. All right? If you forget everything I'm going to say about communication, communication is not what I'm saying at all. Communication is what you're hearing. If I take all your notepads, I will find there's as many different notes as people seated here. Because what I'm saying is going to be affected by the shield that is in front of your face. And the shield is your culture, is your experience, is the mood that you're in today, is what you've had before, is just your state of mind as you're hearing what I'm saying. What I'm saying will go through all of those shields before you break it down and write down. What you think is important is different according to everybody. So that when you're communicating, you have to ask yourself, to whom am I speaking? What am I speaking about? Actually, that's likely to be my next slide. What am I saying? Who am I saying it to? And then you have to choose the right medium to use. When you're communicating, the first thing you want to ask yourself is who, all right? Who is speaking and to whom are they speaking, all right? And then what am I communicating? What is it that I'm communicating? Because there's different ways of communicating, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that there's communication that you write, there's communication that you call on the phone, there's communication that you meet in person, there's communication that you email, there's communication that you send a voice note. All those are different, but different communication goes differently depending on what it is that you want to say. all right? For example, you want to do something that is persuasive. You want to persuade somebody to come to your opinion on a particular matter. What would be the choice of communication method that you would use?
I think if I need to persuade someone, I'll also need to give the person a chance to also get to know more and give a space for interaction.
Okay. There's need for, if you are trying to persuade me to come to your side of any conversation, if you're trying to convince me about something, it makes sense for this communication to be in person, all right?
I think for me to persuade you, I need to know what you want, get to your level, and create and get up from that level. For Obama and Lincoln, they talk about knowing your case and making your case better than you can make it, and then now I'm able to give you my perspective and persuade you.
She brings up a very important point. She brings up a very, very important point. For me to persuade you about something, we have to get on the same level. We have to get on the same level, all right? When you're trying to persuade someone about something, when you're trying to convince somebody, when you're trying to get them, when you're trying to push your point of view to somebody, you have to be perceived in the mind of the receiver as being on the same level, even when it's physically. I'm very sure you're familiar with the concept of a round table. A round table discussion suggests that we are all on the same level, because when a table is square or rectangle, there's a person there's a chair who sits at the head of the table, right? Who is perceived to be the final word, all right? So getting on the same level suggests that we are speaking on the same, it might even be physically, all right? So that if I come to see you in your office, let me give you an example. There's a gentleman at one point who said he's a CEO of a company listed in the stock exchange. I don't want to name the organization. But he was giving a talk where I was, and he was telling us that at one point he needed some change made in some law that would allow his company tax details, blah, blah, blah. But he needed to see the governor of central bank. It's a lot of years ago. It's not the current governor of central bank. And he was given an appointment to see the governor at 7 a.m. in the morning on a particular day. How are you feeling if the governor of central bank tells you to come and see him? And you need a very crucial decision made that will affect your company in the billions of shillings. Are you sleeping very well that morning? Are you nervous? Yes. Are you extremely nervous? Yes. He goes to the appointment, he goes very early. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've been in some of these government offices, guys. The office is the size of this room. Are you together? So you enter from there, and the dude is seated here. And it is designed to intimidate. The intimidation is not accidental. It is designed to intimidate. You walk all the way from there through red carpets, and the guy is sitting here. Did I say you were already nervous the whole night? Yes. You are nervous like a nonsense. He said he had such an experience because he got there, he could barely speak. Governor stood up from his desk, met him, sat him down on the couch, not behind his desk, because the desk is designed to intimidate, remember? He came down, he literally poured his tea. What will you have? I have coffee, I have this, I have this. He served him, and then he sat next to him, discussed a lot of other things, and we are going to go into small talk and breaking ice. So that by the time they were like, talk to me about what you wanted, he had relaxed. He was now one human to another, not somebody who needs a favor from someone very tall. You understand? When you want to talk to somebody, that was excellence in communication skills on the part of the governor. Because you're there to serve, all right? You're there to serve. There's those things that you can do to put the person at ease so that then there is communication that happens. Because we could be here the whole afternoon, the whole morning, and no communication takes place, depending on some of these things. So these are some of the things that you want to consider when you want to communicate, especially when you need to persuade somebody. So when you want to communicate your goals to people, and you guys are going into leadership, and you know that you will need to sell us your agenda, you will need to sell us your manifesto, whatever that is. The first thing to do is to do that from the point of view of the receiver. And the way you know my point of view is you ask questions. All right? Say, for example, I was a doctor and I'm trying to diagnose your illness. I need to listen more than I speak. True or false? More difficult. It's easier said than done, especially for those of us who tend to be talkative. There's the temptation, and one of you ladies mentioned that. There's the temptation, by the time I'm speaking, you're thinking of the next question. that hurts the communication because you then are not coming from my point of view, you're coming from your point of view. So you want to ask as many questions as possible. You want to get the point of view of the other person. All right? There's a way to talk about something that to report on the same thing can be either negative or positive. If you're going to be in leadership, you want to be the kind of person who sees the positive side and who communicates the positive side. All right? There's always the negative and the positive of any situation. You want your energy to go into the positive side. All right? You can report the same thing in a way to make me afraid of it or in a way to make me enthusiastic about it. All right? Let me give you an example out of my own life. Before we went to the university, there was something, and this will betray my age. We went to something that was called NYS. Those of you who lived in Kenya long enough, you would know. And I say that would betray my age. Now, that was 3 months of hell. It was the most difficult 3 months of my life. Because we would be up at 3 a.m. We would run about 20 kilometers by 6. By 6, we would have eaten breakfast and gone on the parade. Fully dressed, boots shone and everything. We would parade. Then we would go on physical duty with breaks for meals in between. And we would eventually sleep at about midnight. We were so sleep deprived. We were on physical energy the whole time. We used to eat a mountain. The reason you don't eat a lot is you don't work a lot. We used to eat so much. I always think to myself, there's ways in which I can describe NYS to make you want to go there. Because I discovered I had a capacity in my body that I didn't know I have. My body can keep going. You know your body is capable of more. How many of you like the gym? At the point when you're about to faint, you can go more. True or false? If you tell your body, listen, I'm in charge, and you can go. So that became apparent to me. So there's ways in which I can describe NYS to make you scared, or I can describe NYS to make you wish you had gone. You understand? So you will be looking at the same situation. You can pick the positives in it in a way that makes somebody want to be it, or you can describe it in a way that makes somebody be repelled by it or be afraid of it. Now, sometimes in a situation, especially when you're a leader, there's things you will know which you don't want the listener, the audience, the people that you're leading to know. All right? If, for example, we are 5 minutes to going live in a presentation and some of the details are not yet sorted, that there's a snag somewhere, you don't want to communicate that already. You don't want to show panic, okay? You don't want to show panic. So you have to manage what am I communicating and how am I communicating it, all right? If today you go and visit somebody sick in hospital, there is the face you wear. You know the game face? How many of you know a game face? You can't come to hospital and look at me and tell me, woi guy yake utamaliza lunchtime, woi guy. And then you go back home and report at home what you found. Sioni akifikisha jioni. Especially here in Africa, we don't do that, right? Even when my case is obvious, I'm going. We don't. There's a game face. Sometimes as a leader, you smile when you want to cry. You smile when you want to cry. And listen, ladies, it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. It is okay to cry. I usually tell people, don't let my tears fool you. I'm not weak. It's not a sign of weakness. I have cried in public, I have finished crying, and I have still said what I needed to say. Don't mistake my tears for weakness. We've been beaten down long enough. We've been made to feel, I think it's in our emotion that we are strong. If something requires for you to empathize, for you to be emotional, please go ahead and be emotional. That is communication. But don't let that stop you. If I'm holding the mic, there was a time I remember being so embarrassed. I was given an opportunity to go and speak to a group of girls. And I do that for a living. Guys, I speak for a living. But I was invited to be the chief guest at an event for girls, and I was talking about opportunity. And I was speaking to the entire school about how to be motivated and to make sure that this opportunity can, this talk, right? And I don't know, for some reason, I just got to telling these girls, you have such an opportunity here. And I just got emotional. I don't know why. I got to cry. I was so embarrassed. There were men everywhere. But I insisted on finishing my speech. So if you find that you're getting emotional, it means you care about that subject. But when you're presenting, when you're going to be, how many of you have had an important speech to make? You have a very important, everyone in the room has had an important speech to make, right? Once again, how do you feel the night before? How do you feel during? If you are not nervous, that's when you need to be nervous that you're not nervous. The reason you're nervous, the reason you freak out, the reason you have butterflies in your stomach, the reason you're physically sick is because this is important. It's because this is important. Don't let that chicken you out. That nervousness, that fear that you feel is your motivation to over-prepare. You know, you prepare, especially when you are going to make an important presentation. You can't be too prepared. You cannot be too prepared. I've had years and years of experience doing this, and my best performances are the ones that I rehearsed the most. The ones that I rehearse the most, especially when I'm told, for example, to go and speak in a church or in a Christian gathering. I'm not an ordained minister. So that makes me nervous. I'm like, what am I telling people? You know? I prepare even more. So use your nervousness, use your fear to help you prepare more. All right? And then find something that takes away your nervous energy. Most of the time, for example, if I'm asked to make a presentation, I prefer to have a handheld mic. They'll ask you, do you want a lapel or do you want a handheld? I prefer, because I just want something to transfer my energy to, so that if I feel like fidgeting, I have something I'm holding. All these, you will know what works for you. You will know what works for you. There's people who will hold, most of the time when I'm presenting, I'll be holding a pointer. If I like to have something in my hand, all right? I like to have something in my hand. I don't know what you do for your nervous energy. I don't know if it works for you to have worked out that morning. I don't know if it works for you to have an empty stomach or a full stomach. All these are things you need to know yourself so that you are able to make a good presentation, all right? To make a good presentation. And then when you're making the presentation, it's very important that you make eye contact with the people that you're talking to. Have you ever been at a place where someone is talking over your heads? They are looking made up there, or they are just over your heads. Make eye contact with the people that you're talking to. Now, most of the time, regardless of whether you're talking to 20 people or to 20,000 people, there will be people in the room who will give you the right energy. You just pick it. So you look here, you make contact with that one. You look there, you make contact with that. So there will be people in the room who are giving you the right energy. Pick up their energy. There will be people, when you become professional at this, you just know. There's people who give you a frown. Don't look there too often. Don't look there too often, okay? But with time, you'll see them open up, all right? There's ways you can tell. How, for example, would you know, even if it's a one-on-one presentation, I'm having a cup of coffee with you, if you're disagreeing with what I'm saying and you're not even saying anything, how will I know?
See them changing their sitting position, either sitting in a very comfortable position or uncomfortable positions, or fidgeting in the chair.
The other body language which tells you that the person is not interested in the topic you want to discuss about. They'll just cross their hands over.
If I fold my arms, if I cross my legs, if I sit back as far as possible, that will tell you that someone is not agreeing with what you're doing. If I'm excited at what you're saying, I'll sit upright, I'll lean forward. Those are things that will tell you that the person that you're talking to, making eye contact, smiling, those are things that, these are subtle hints that you get when you're having a conversation, all right? These are just subtle hints that you get as you're having a conversation that tells you that this person is agreeing with what I'm saying or not, and then you know how to tweak the conversation. If you need to tell me something that is critical or negative, how do you do that? You know? If for example, and we are going to be talking about etiquette right now, if the scent coming out of my body is not pleasant.
Go appreciate your dress and the look in your hair.
Like her dress, I appreciate her dress.
Thank you. But, go ahead, but.
Yes, but.
You need to tell me something negative. But I would have done my hair in a different way, and maybe it would have looked better in that other style than this one. Maybe that's how I would go about it. Thank you.
Okay. She'll first of all find something to appreciate.
So there's non-verbal communication. I can pull you to the side and give you roll-on. If you're smart enough, you'll know. Because I've once sat with someone...
Don't worry, we are talking about etiquette shortly.
Sorry.
Don't worry, we are getting there.
I've sat next to someone who gave me chewing gum, and then later on I realized I hadn't brushed my teeth. But politely, I would pull you to the side and have an in-person conversation with you away from the rest of the people.
Lucia, that's very brave. A lot of times we pretend we've never had a bad day. We pretend we've never had a bad hair day. I like your honesty. I really, really admire your honesty. Very, very good point there. Very important that you pull them to the side. You don't tell me this in public.
There's something I was taught in class 8. It's called a communication sandwich, which you say yes, no, yes. If there's something negative about you, first I appreciate by saying a yes. And then I'll say a no where I bring a but, and then another yes for the solution. Yeah, for example, tunafaa kuja hapa for class. It's 5 minutes to class. Na haujakula chai. Haujakunywa chai. And you insist we have to go take tea. Yes, I'll appreciate that you're hungry, but we are getting late for class. So, yes, I appreciate you're hungry. So, let's go pick your snack. Then, let's come, you eat. So, nimekata uketi ukule pale, but I've given a solution that you can eat in class. So, yes, no, yes, a communication sandwich.
There's a lot of very good points that are coming up. I like what you're doing. You cushion the negative so that then the person accepts. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to get them to accept.
Okay, she has talked about the sandwich and I remembered there is a method called feel, felt, found. I know how you feel. I felt the same way, but then I found out that and I give you a solution to that.
The other approach is using the third-party approach, whereby it is like some people do this and it was not nice. So it is like you are not telling them, you are talking of somebody else, but in the process they will pick the conversation and realize it was offensive.
You know how Africans used to tell you the story of the hare chasing the rabbit? Yes. And then you pick the point. I also like when you say the third-party approach, I also like the idea of sometimes I may not be the right person to tell you. Okay? Depending on my relationship with you, maybe I'm so distant from you that I might find someone closer to you who you would listen to this communication from. We tend to be very sensitive about anything that seems to attack our person, true? Yeah. So especially when it's something that is personal like that, you want to find a cushioned way of telling the person. What you want me to hear, them, the one you're talking to, is your concern for me. At the end of the day, what you want me to be left with is your concern for me so that I don't feel attacked. You're trying to get me to not feel attacked, all right? So it becomes an easier conversation, Distinguish between a fact and an opinion. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? There is proper use of body language. You've referred to that already. Use of the tones of your voice. Ensure that you always praise and appreciate. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to praise. It doesn't ever hurt to praise. Praise in public, criticize in private. It doesn't ever, don't be mean with your compliments, all right? In fact, one of them, we are going to go into communication etiquette right now. One of the easiest way to break ice with somebody is to pay them a compliment, all right? And especially across the gender, you want to be sensitive about what compliments you can pay or not, right? I want to go into etiquette. I wanted us to spend more time in etiquette because in my opinion, that is where you will need the most up. You need your etiquette to be way up there if you're going to be the kind of leaders that you're going to be. To be very, very careful how you communicate, and that's a very good place to go into communication etiquette, all right? We said that etiquette is decorum, etiquette is good manners, and we are going to be talking about face-to-face interaction, the do's and don'ts of how you interact with people face-to-face and also on technology, all right? When you're meeting people face-to-face, the first thing we want to be talking about is salutations and greetings. How do you greet people? How do you greet people? How do you greet people? As Africans, we are good at greeting. Habari yako. How are your animals? How is your crop? How are your children? In Africa, we show concern. True or false? Yeah. We show concern. How are you doing? We greet people properly. All right? Now, whose hand do you shake? Whose hand do you not shake? Whose eye contact do you make? How do you address me? I'm going to use a simple example. If you don't know my name, and I saw some very good etiquette when I came in the morning. There's people who walked up to me. I was just sitting there minding my own business. They walked up to me and greeted me. Some told me they remembered me from season 1. Excellence in etiquette. Excellence in etiquette. All right? Now, if you don't know my name, how do you get my name? Where?
Mostly, I'd give out my name first. And then, as a result, the other person would do so.
It looks obvious, except we don't do it. If you want to get my name, you offer your name. Hi, my name is Christine. To whom am I speaking? All right? If the person doesn't know to give you their name, ask them. Yeah? Hi, I'm Christine, and you're? Get their name. All right? Who do you call Mr.? Who do you call Mheshimiwa? Who do you call Professor? Who do you call Your Honor? Who do you call Muhesh? How do you learn to address people? Titles are very important here in our culture. There's other places where, and we said, and someone pointed this out even before I said it, etiquette in general, and we said we'll talk about communication, dress, and dining etiquette. Etiquette in general is culture sensitive. All right? It is culture sensitive, so that what is acceptable here may be abhorred completely in another culture. All right? I see some Muslim sisters, and I'll get their guidance in a few minutes, but my education is I don't offer my hand. We went through 2 years of not shaking hands. So we are having to learn to shake hands again. But in general, if I am meeting a Muslim of an opposite gender, I never offer their hand. Is that true or false? I am looking at Muslim ladies. How do I determine who to shake the hand of? I haven't heard your voice, my darling.
It's funny, I was going to ask you that question. So, as ladies, we do not shake hands with the men. And then there are also men who don't shake hands with the women. So, sometimes some Muslims do shake hands, but it doesn't mean that all of them shake hands. So sometimes people get offended when you do not shake hands. So I find myself telling people, this is how I say hi, like the Maasai community, or so you try, they get offended by it, but when they stretch and you don't say hi again, now it becomes a problem. So why we don't shake hands is, one, the two genders are not supposed to be,
over familiar.
Having any contact and all that, yeah.
Okay, that's a cultural issues, and you...
Two different men
opposite gender.
Opposite gender.
Yeah, I like what you're pointing out, because nowadays in the world there's about 10 genders.
Just giving my input on that, I remember there's a time the president was in Isiolo and he wanted to greet a women rep, and she was like, and it became a whole news on social media. So sometimes these things are personal. As much as it is religion, some people assume that, or I believe that salvation is personal. So when you see other people shaking hands, it's a personal issue, but our religion doesn't allow that.
Okay, I like that clarification a lot. Here we are talking culture, not necessarily religion. Are we together? We are talking culture, because my education is that some sects of the Islamic faith, they shake hands, some don't. So if I have any suspicion that this might be a Muslim gentleman, I simply say hello. I keep my hands to myself, all right? If he extends his hand, I shake it, all right? Now, no, Sinimesha Sema, I know that. One day I'm in the office of a gentleman, client. It's even Ramadan. So we talked and talked. It's lunchtime, he's about to go for prayer. So we talked and finished, and as I was, okay, thank you very much. As soon as I was like, oh my God, what have I done? So we will make mistakes even when we know. Yes. If that happens, just apologize. As soon as I told him, I'm so sorry. Because now he courteously shook my hand. Yeah. Now I knew he has to go and cleanse afresh before he can go for his prayers. All right? They have, let me, I already said that, that etiquette is culture sensitive. Let me on that same note say, there is no superior culture in the world. Yes. Someone defined culture as this, the way of life that makes sense to you. What makes sense to you is your culture. Kwetu we don't wear any clothes tunatembeanga hivyo. That is our culture, it makes sense to me. For example, the reason you eat what you eat is because you were raised to eat it. Yes. Period. There is no other reason. The reason you pray the way you pray is because that is what your parents taught you to do. Doesn't make it right or wrong. So that when then you're dealing with other people, do not feel superior. All right? So you want to be sensitive. For example, right now, my child goes to an Islamic school near here. I wouldn't go there dressed like this at all. And if I did, I would go with my windows up. Fortunately, my car is tinted. I would pick up, she would enter the car and we drive out. I would not bring down my window. Because I don't want to see skin. They do not want to see the skin. I respect their religion. Understand? I respect their religion. If I have a meeting in that school, I will wear sleeves, okay? And I will go to that meeting. I will wear something that is longer than this. I may not be of that faith, but I respect their faith. The same way I expect them to respect mine. You understand? So you want to respect the culture and the respectability of the other person. All right? So that said, if you're greeting somebody who is a former, current, wannabe, what other level is there of member of parliament? All of them in general are addressed in Kenya as muhesh. Are we together? Just muhesh them yaishe. Including the ones in the room, true or false? Including those that we have here. Haven't I said aspiring, wannabe? Haven't I given all of those categories? You muhesh them and we move on, okay? And remember we said I will cover the distance and come to you. Remember, we said communication is opening up for me to communicate with you. Why are you trying to build a barrier? I remember at one point a prominent politician who I will not name because we are in the election season. She got on a phone call and she said, hello, huyu ni mheshimiwa so and so. And I said to myself, do you muhesh yourself? That is like me being a judge and saying, Honorable Christine, like I am honoring myself. But it's a culture thing. It's a culture thing. We had an interesting example given at one point. I was giving a training program for the judicial service. And there's a gentleman there who said at one point he flew to London and came back. And his ticket, that was a few years ago when the ticket would be printed. Nowadays it's not. When coming back, he gets to the airport. And you know the way you're given a ticket, you don't even look at it. You put it in your travel things and you go. Then you're at the airport, you hand over your passport and your ticket. So the lady looks at it and says, sir, unless your name is Justice, your name is not on this ticket. Because the ticket said, Honorable Professor Justice, full words. Honorable Professor Justice, and then the space was finished. So his name was even not on the ticket. So I remember he called his office and he said, my name is XYZ. Please, when you're buying me an air ticket, my name is Christine Mweteli. You know? So I'm saying this to say, in our culture here, titles and accolades are very important. Documents have been returned because a document came saying, this invitation is for Christine Mweteli. And the person is like, this person has a very similar name to me, who is this? Because it did not say doctor or professor, and the person is called, hello, you guys want this person to attend this event? Please send another invitation and say doctor or say professor or say honorable if you want them to attend this event, because he will not look at anything that does not have those accolades. You understand? It's a culture thing. There's people here who think that is very important. There's people who don't care. If you call them Christine, they're happy, and that's like me. I was having a fight the other day because me, I introduced myself as Christine. So even 3-year-olds who live near me, hi Christine, I'm hi. My daughter was telling me, you need to teach these children to call you auntie. I'm like, but I'm not the auntie. For some people, it matters. For other people, it doesn't. You know? So you want to make sure that you are using people. Now, we are going into appropriate greetings and small talk as I go. Those ladies are very serious about me coming here. Oh, these aunties, Our aunties wanataka nikuja hapa sana.
I'd like to make a comment about a personal experience about the title. I remember there's a time when I was in second year, I don't know, first year, I had a lecturer who was my friend. And then one time when I went to his office, I found another female oldish lecturer. And then I said, how are you, Mrs. Chesaina? And she never answered me back. Like, she looked at me she was so disgusted at how I called her Mrs. And then I came to realize that she's Professor Chesaina.
Oh.
I was like, at what point do we draw the barrier of these are people who are not used to this jargon? And then another thing that I wanted to say that is really personal to me is I've discovered most of the time when I hang out with people who are way older than me. So every time we have a discussion, and it's heated, they throw the edge card. They say, but you know, you haven't lived as long as me. I feel like at what time do we actually feel like that is bullying? Because you're bullying the conversation by putting the edge factor.
You've said we mhesh them yaishe. But I feel like when we do that, we actually really inflate their egos. Why is it so one-sided that I'm the one who has to all the time mhesh you? Why can't you just mwananchi me? You know, at what point do we stop the hypocrisy?
Have we agreed in this session that silence is also communication? Remember, we are saying you're trying to communicate with this person. You're trying to get them to your side. All right? You're trying to greet them for whatever conversation you're having. All right? So if that is the way to address them, do. But I do agree with you, there's a lot of honorables who are not honorable at all. And silence is communication.
At what point do you give yourself the titles? Because I am a teacher by profession, and one of the common mistakes that I feel teachers make is telling students, my name is Madam Lucy. Do you madam yourself? Because I believe a name like Mrs., it is earned through marriage, right? The name Miss is because you're not married, right? So when is that time do we Mrs. yourself? Do you Professor Honorable yourself, Madam yourself? When is that time do you give yourself that title?
You know, ladies, at the end of the day, some of these conversations are very controversial, and we'll never get to the end of this. For example, as ladies, we are made to feel incomplete, so that I must bear the name of someone else. I am the child of so-and-so, or I'm the wife of so-and-so. Not necessarily. I have 4 children. I have been a mother for the last 27 years. I have never allowed myself to be called Mama so-and-so at all. One day somebody says, oh, Mama, I'm like, excuse me, I'm the mother of that child, but my name is Christine. That's personal to me. I have an identity that is enough. I do not need to be your mother, or your child, or even your wife. I am Christine. Because I'm like, unless you're listing all my 4 children, I don't know which child you want to name. So, my name is Christine. Now, that's very personal, okay? So, I think some of these are very, very personal issues. They're very, very personal issues, but when we are talking etiquette, we are talking about the acceptable rules of behavior. So, when you're having a conversation, and I gave the example of the central bank governor, there is something called icebreakers, there's something called small talk that opens up the conversation. Most of the time, if you're going to make a presentation, if you're going to be having a conversation with somebody, you don't go straight to the matter. You do what is known as small talk. There's acceptable topics to discuss in small talk, there's unacceptable, all right? When you are talking to somebody, when you're opening up a conversation around the world, traffic, weather, are very casual, common things to discuss when you're opening up a discussion, all right? There's things you never ever talk about in small talk. I can think of at least 2. Anyone know any? What do you never bring up in a conversation? You don't know me, we are meeting for the first time, you've just introduced yourself to me, we are having some small talk. What do you never bring up?
Yes, I feel matters of politics, if you don't know their polarity, matters regards to weight, that's very sensitive when it comes to females, culture, and also tribal issues. We had a discussion in regards to countries like Rwanda.
Okay, very good. You never bring up politics, you never bring up, okay, you're just next door.
Good morning. We don't talk about other people's religion.
Okay, those are actually the 2 key ones. You never talk about religion, you never talk about politics, because these are, the rule of the thumb is this, things which people feel very passionately about, you don't bring them up, because you don't know my opinion, you don't know that we're on the same side, because a conversation could end. You could lose business because you're of a particular. There's another one that hasn't been mentioned yet.
You don't talk about people's physique if you have met them for the first time, or also you don't talk about people's relationship or sexual
status.
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. You never bring it up. You never ask a woman, are you married? You know, I ask, why is being married looked like as an achievement? I mean, let's not even go there. I must mention personal space. Kenyans do not know how to queue. They stand here. You know, COVID came to teach us personal space. Personal space is on average arm's length. Don't stand here in a conversation. Kenyans do that a lot. Do not be very close. Do not, when you're queuing with, don't touch them. Why are you touching someone? So, we are talking about the unwritten rules of conduct. You know these are unwritten rules. No one teaches you these things except you're expected to know. You're just expected to know, no one teaches you these things. So be very careful about personal space. Also, just enough perfume. Moderate use. Sometimes you look shady. Ladies, you're a leader. You're a leader. Don't be over-impressed. Don't be over-jizuia. Unajua kujizuia? Even if you see someone looking so hot, don't immediately take out pictures and stuff. You know, if you're going to ask for a selfie and there will be selfie moments, please, can I have a selfie? Just ask. And then quickly, you do it quickly and finish. Okay? Become good at taking the selfie yourself. Because this is the age of social media. You do want a picture. Take it and put away your phone. Okay? Don't make too much fuss about it, and don't go photographing everything. We're just going to get to etiquette, but at no point do you photograph food, ladies. At no point. At no point. So don't look overly. You carry yourself with a bit of decorum. You are a leader, all right? So no photography of food, all right? Subject we talked about of communication etiquette. When we talk about your social media, you need to decide your name, okay? My name is Christine Mweteli, okay? I've had reasons to change. I didn't because my brand is Christine Mweteli. I do not want to cause any confusion. So please synchronize all your social media to your name, okay? To your name. There's politicians who have this name and this one, but whenever we refer to them, we say Raila. That is a decision that was made to popularize that name. If we are saying Kalonzo, that's one name you know. That's a name that you're used to. Ruto, that's a name you know. You get? I hate to use politicians examples. I don't talk any politics at all in an election year. But I'm using examples that you can relate to. So that if my name is Christine Mweteli, if you Google up Christine Mweteli, I have other names. Okay? I could put my middle name, I could put my mama so-and-so, all of those. You understand? But have one name across the media that helps your and also we talked about the profile picture. Your profile picture is a picture of yourself. Get a photo shoot. You need good pictures taken. All right? You need good pictures taken. I referred to a video that is on my channel, that is Who Does Google Say You Are? I would recommend you watch that video because it will give you pointers on how to profile yourself online, because you need to do that. Now, dress etiquette. Dress etiquette. Have you ever heard the expression macho hayana pazia? Yes. Before I introduce myself, before I pull out my folder and give you all the good notes I have, before I open my mouth, the first thing you do is what? Look at me. You can't avoid looking at someone, all right? Yeah. So you want to make sure, especially leaders such as yourselves, that you're camera ready before you leave your house. You're just camera ready. That's a very high standard, trust me. That's a very, very high standard. When I first got published the first time when I became an author, I remember getting advice from a lady, a political leader who was close friends with me, and she told me, from today henceforth, you're a public figure. Consider yourself one. And that was years ago, before social media was what it was today. She told me, never leave your gate in anything that you wouldn't be happy to see in the newspaper. Who agrees with me? That's a very high standard. So do yourself a favor, ladies. Don't ever leave your gate when you're not wearing something that is camera ready. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about what is acceptable and what is not. And like we said already, all of this is very culture sensitive. It depends on where you're going, on what you're going to do there, and all of that. So the way we judge people, and these are obvious things that are here. I'm not going to read the slides because you can see them. If you do not know what is required, ask. If you're invited for an event and you do not know what is supposed to be worn at that event, just ask. What is the dress code? All right? Nowadays, we have a lot of events that have dress code. If today I invited you for my birthday party or my whatever graduation and the dress code is white, if you show up in green, how do you look? You are hurting the pictures, you know. So just inquire. If I tell you we are having a dowry ceremony for my sister, we are from Kilifi County, and we are having a dowry ceremony on Saturday, what will you come wearing? You are not sure. Ask. Just ask. What is usually for gentlemen, it's very easy to wear a shirt and a trouser. But for us ladies, it's a little, what is formal and what is casual is a little complicated, right? So there are a few rules which we are going to go through, what amounts to casual wear and what amounts to formal wear. But when you are not sure, lean on the conservative side. If you are not sure what's going to be worn, if you don't have opportunity to ask, lean on the conservative side. Now, there's again another thing. Remember how we said Kenyans don't know how to queue? Kenyans also do not know how to dress for funerals and weddings. Now, what do we do? Well, why do we go to a funeral? To pay last respects, okay? The reason I'm at a funeral is I knew the departed, I'm coming to make my own peace with their departure, or I am close to somebody who is related to the departed, all right? And I'm coming to be of comfort to them, all right? Which part of last respect has you wearing jeans? Do you understand? People make up all these things about the way you look to meet me tells me how important that thing is. The way you keep time, I can't believe we did not talk about keeping time in communication etiquette. When you show up on time, it tells me whether or not what we are doing is important to you. All right? The one thing we need to do better in, and we talked about what if the other people are not respectable? What if the other people are not honorable? The most that we can do to change the culture in a place is to change yourself. When you're picking what to wear, there are 3 things I want you to consider. Only 3. The first question you want to ask yourself is, where am I going? The event. Where am I going? I will pick what I'm wearing depending on what I am wearing. I will pick what I'm wearing depending on what is the weather. And I will pick what I'm wearing depending on what is my body type. Those are the considerations for what you want to wear. Have I mentioned fashion anywhere? No. Have you heard me saying fashion? Because there's things that are fashionable which are not acceptable for you as a leader. Yeah? Let's have examples of something that may be, and we are only talking about ladies' dress here because we are ladies and I have restricted time. I want examples, and let's keep this as fast as possible, examples of things that may be fashionable but may not be good enough for a leader.
There are some very uncomfortable wears that ladies have. You go to the airport and someone is in trainers. Please don't wear trainers outside the gym. In as much, it is not elegant. It's fancy, it looks good, but it is not elegant. Thank you.
What she's saying is, it might be very comfortable wear. I agree, it's very, very comfortable wear. I love to wear tights myself, but don't leave your gate. Is that what you're saying? If you must leave your gate, wear something below the hip on top. I'll give you an example, and I'm giving you examples out of my own life. At one point, I was wearing something very similar to what I'm wearing right now, and I went to Parliament. I was having a meeting in the building that has Parliament. I was not let through reception. Yes. It was a very hot day in February. I was actually wearing part of a suit, but the jacket is in the office. I just drove into town. I get to the reception, I'm told, I'm sorry, you can't enter because you're sleeveless. I couldn't enter. Sometimes you lose the battle to win the war. I want to have an important meeting there. I'm about to get a lot of business there. I showed up in a jacket. Sometimes you don't want to lose your life to make a point, you know? So if the people that you're talking to have you seen even the leaders that we have? When they are going to a particular community, they dress a particular way. Yeah. You remember we said when you're communicating, you want to establish sameness. Yeah. You want to establish sameness. When I'm speaking to younger people, I wouldn't look like this. I would dress it down so that then they will. Very, very recently, I was speaking to a group of young people, and I had my clothes picked out by my daughter, who told me, Mom, wear jeans, wear these. And I went to speak, because I can't show up in high heels and all, because now they are looking at their mother. They are not hearing what I'm saying. So sometimes we lose the battle to win the war, okay? But at the end of the day, dress choice is very, very, it's the one thing that shows your personality. It's the one thing but so you don't want to hurt yourself. You do not want to hurt yourself. Remember, it's not what you're saying, it's what I'm hearing. All right. What's the appropriate length of skirts? Depending on where you're going. Depending on your body type. There is those of you who are a lot trimmer than me who can get away with things I wouldn't get away with. Okay? My family has got, some of my daughters, I say I have 4 daughters. Some are my kind of body type, others are a lot thinner. So I'm like, you can get away with this, you can't, you know? It depends, and also it depends on where you're going. If where you're going, it is not acceptable. If I was going to an event in Shags, I wouldn't wear this. I wouldn't. You don't want to distract. And again, whatever it is you wear, please, where is your focus? When I'm looking at you and having a conversation with you, where should the focus go? Sure, you have seen clothing that takes your attention elsewhere. Have you seen the athletes who are running? Have you seen where the Nike logo is placed? You've seen? Yes. You want people who are talking to you to be looking at your face, especially when you're talking to people of the opposite gender. I don't want to be too dramatic, they're in the room. But sometimes you can see they're not looking where you want them to look, all right? And these are biological functions. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you want people to be to appeal to your brain. You don't want people to look at you like a piece of meat, all right? So, okay, that one I need to mention. First of all, you need to be comfortable in it. You need to be comfortable in it, all right? Whatever it is, I've seen nice shoes as you were walking around. I have seen nice, comfortable, but beautiful looking shoes. You want to be comfortable in it. If you have never, the same way I tell people, if you're going to an event and you need to make a good impression, if you have never drunk alcohol before in your life, don't go and drink it there. Also, if you're going for a job interview or you're going for an important presentation, do not wear high heels for the first time in your life. I've literally seen somebody who couldn't walk. Don't break a leg. Be comfortable. Don't wear something that is too uncomfortable for you to walk. Even when you're in your trouser suit, don't show your toes. Don't show your toes. I wouldn't wear these open shoes if I was wearing pants for formal wear. If I'm wearing a trouser suit, I wear closed shoes. All right? These are just the unwritten rules. Don't excessive makeup. I'm sure you have seen makeup that looks like it can be scooped. Don't wear too, at the end of the, makeup is supposed to enhance your natural look. Don't let it be makeup that covers, so that your phone won't recognize your face. Surely the makeup is too much if your face doesn't open your own phone, right? Don't put too much makeup. Now, you want to make your clothing age appropriate. Would you agree with me? Yeah. There's things my daughters would wear which I can't wear. There's things, and we have given examples of such things. There's things which might look nice on someone of a particular age than some, and when in doubt, lean on the conservative side. True? When in doubt, lean on the conservative side. You rather look like shady, but you want to remember, especially as a leader, the more skin on display, the less respectful. Have you seen situations where there's just too much skin on display? Just too much skin on display. I remember a lady who lost a job because she went very well on the interview, and this was a HR director telling this in a training. And she was saying she was in the panel, they were recruiting a senior manager, and they were down to 2 candidates, and they wanted to drop off one, and they were almost similar in the points on their performance, experience, and everything, and what they were bringing to the table. This lady was disqualified because they went to her social media, and there was all sorts of pictures of her in swimwear. Remember, you are representing the organization. We can't have somebody Googling you up, you're our head of HR or you're our manager for this and that, and there is that amount of skin on display. Yeah? So when technology came, we lost our privacy, we've lost some few rights, so those are things, and it's our society that is conservative. Napkin. Let us assume that this, remember we said nobody knows anything. Let's assume that this is a napkin. You will usually find it arranged in a beautiful arrangement and all that. Sometimes it looks like a bad. It's arranged. The first thing you do is to open the napkin and place it on your lap. Do not. It is not a bib. It is not a bib. It is okay to dab your mouth with a napkin. That is what it's for. It's okay when you touch something to wipe your hands with it. If something spills, it's okay to eat. That's what it's for. If you are standing up to go and pick up the next course, it's okay to, don't try to arrange it again. Those people are trained. Just place it on the chair that says you're coming back, or even on the table on the side of your plate. All right? That says that you're coming back if you're going to serve the next course. If you're at a buffet table, we all move together. Don't eat quickly and move to dessert and we usually move. Remember, the conversation is the priority, not the food. So you observe that the other people are still at their starter, and then you, now, if we go to the starter, what is this? This is a soup spoon. Usually the first item on the meal is soup. The soup will usually go with a piece of bread. That bread is not touched with any cutlery, it's broken with the hands. The bread, you break it. If you want to pick some butter and put on the bread, you put the butter on the bread, then you put the bread in your mouth. Okay? You don't touch that bread with cutlery. Okay? You scoop the soup away from you and you drink it like this. You don't drink it loudly. You don't make a single sound. You just sip kidogo and then you don't finish. I know you were raised properly by your mom and you're in Africa. Unataka kumaliza yote, you don't waste food, we are in Africa. This is fine dining. Tuko pamoja? Fine dining. Unachukua kidogo, remembering that it's about the conversation. Kidogo tu na usikashibe soup, tunaenda main course. Kidogo. Tuko pamoja? One comment before I finish. You are invited to China. You are invited to a culture that is not yours. That's the point I'm making. And the host is very gracious and tells you we have served dinner. His wife or whoever has been cooking since 2 o'clock. And you arrive at 6. And what is placed in front of you are frog legs or snails. What do you do? What do you do? Okay. Shh. Silence. You are a leader. Okay? You are in this situation. Now, outside of religion, so that if I'm a Muslim, I will under no circumstances eat pork. Outside of religion and outside of allergy, because again, you will not eat something that will break you out. Outside of those two conditions, you eat. You eat 2 mouthfuls. You just put it, if you observe the people on the table na wanakula na hawajakufa. You put it in your mouth the first time, you keep it in. You keep it in. What did we say about game face? If you observe people on the table are eating and they have not died, you put it in the mouth, you swallow, and you call God. 2 mouthfuls, you sip water, and then you say, thank you so much. Lakini kwetu hatujazoea, then you go to rice and the things you are used to. But it is very rude. You can imagine these people have been cooking. For you to snotty face and say, me, I don't eat such in our place. The only reason you eat what you eat is you are socialized to eat it. Ladies, it has been a great pleasure to meet you.